I'm Kerry Kimber from Rowan Connect, and this is Chloe Thurlow, Rowan designer. Chloe, tell us all about this knit-along that you've designed for us.
Yes, I'm really excited to share my knit-along. It's called the Rhythmic knit-along, and it is all about taking you on a colourwork journey. So each week we'll be trying different ways of introducing colourwork throughout it and really building your confidence. You can either choose a small project like a cushion to knit or a larger project like this blanket here to really sort of build that confidence and just really learn to love and get into the flow of colourwork.
Yeah, and you've called it the Rhythmic knit-along. Tell us a bit about the inspiration behind it.
Yes, so when I am designing, music is a huge part of my design process. So I love listening to music, and often just listening to different types of music, I see shapes, I see patterns differently, and especially in colour work, it really brings out those repeat patterns. So what I try to do for this knit-along is listen to a different genre for each square and see what flow it gives me. So when I'm like knitting and listening to music, I'm getting into that sort of flow and rhythm, hence the Rhythmic knit-along. So I really want to take you on that journey with me, where listening to music really gets you into that sort of colourwork flow and rhythm.
Yeah, such a lovely idea. And you've created 2 colourways, and they also have musical titles and
Yes.
musical names. Tell us about your colourway, your colour choices.
Yes, so my 2 colourways are the Melody colourway and the Symphony colourway. So we've got the Melody colourway here in the cushion. So for the blanket you'll be using 7 shades of pure wool worsted. For the cushion you'll be using 4. And the Melody one is all about sort of these soft tonal melodic sort of shades. So you've got the soft tonal greens, you've got these sort of nice mauve colours, and in the blanket you have some tonal greys, keeping it really smooth and soft. Whereas the Symphony blanket here is loud. It is a symphony, I think.
Stunning.
You have the contrast colours coming in and really pops of colours that really brighten up your home, add really contrasting colour.
So tell us about the Pure Wool Superwash worsted that you've chosen.
Yes, so we're using Rowan's Pure Wool Superwash worsted for this project, and I love it for so many different reasons. I think for homeware especially it's great because it's like a really tough, hardy 100% wool. It's also superwash, so you can stick it in the washing, which is great because if you have pets or anything, you spill a bit of tea on it, all these accidents happen, so it's great to stick it in the washing and it comes out exactly as it is. I also think when you're learning to do colour work, it's a great smooth, clean yarn. I think, it's not like our kids' silk haze where it's going to get twisted and tangled because you don't want more frustration when you're learning a new technique. You want it as easy as possible. So it's a nice thicker weight. It is got these beautiful solid colours, so it really brings out and makes your colour work stand out. And yeah, I just really think it's a great palette.
So what skills do you need to join in with this knit-along?
So I hope it's really a knit-along for everyone. The squares are going to be knit individually straight, so as long as you know basic knitting skills to cast on, to knit, to purl and to cast off, you're really going to learn all the other skills you need along the way with our weekly tutorials. We're going to start the first 4 weeks with stranded colour work, so that will be carrying our floats along the back with small bits and 2 colours each row. And then the next 3 weeks will be intarsia, where we'll be twisting our yarns, and it sounds daunting because a lot of people are scared of intarsia, but I really hope that we'll get into the flow and the rhythm and you'll really find it less daunting once you get into it and you learn all the basic skills.
Yeah, you've got a couple of swatches there, haven't you, showing the difference. Might be interesting to see the difference between what's stranded. So this is stranded colour work,
yes,
isn't
so
it?
this will be the first week, so this will be the basic stranded colour work. So you're just knitting 2 shades each row, and you can see along the back that you're carrying the yarn on the back here, and that's the sort of basics of colour, stranded colour work. And then the difference with intarsia is it's twisted, so you're not carrying the yarn around the back, you're twisting the yarns each row. So again, working 2 shades for this one, and you can just see it looks like your normal stocking stitch reverse stocking stitch back, and you can just see there that it's a bit different.
Yeah, you're working more in blocks, aren't you, and only
Yes.
carrying 1 yarn at a time on the back for intarsia. the different techniques, the two techniques that you're using, can affect the tension or gauge of your knitting.
Yes.
Before we go into that, do you want to just explain a bit about what tension is?
Yeah.
Just in case there are people who haven't come across that term
Yeah, of
before.
course. Tension is something we always check at the beginning of a knitting project. So what it is basically the number of stitches and rows you're knitting to make sure that the size is correct when you're knitting. So for example, pure wool superwash worsted stocking stitch tension will be 20 stitches by 25 rows, and what that means is if you measure 10 centimetres and count every individual stitch along a row, that will be 20 stitches. And if you knit count the rows along 10 centimetres, it will be 25 rows. So that's what we work to. So we make sure each square nicely is 16 centimetres by 16 centimetres.
So everybody's square should be the same size, and you might need to compensate, mightn't you? So if you're knitting really tight, then and you are creating much smaller squares, then you're going to want to use a slightly bigger needle just to get that tension. And if you're knitting really loose, kind of large squares, you might want to go to a smaller needle size just so that you get your squares to be 16 centimetres squared. But also the patterns vary, because sometimes when you're doing different techniques, that can affect the tension. So you've added in some compensations for that, haven't you?
Yeah, so a knit along is great to really play with tension, because not everyone achieves the perfect tension on the ball band. We're all different, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just finding what fits for you. But yeah, colours work with stranded colour work and intarsia. It can affect the tensions differently. So with stranded colour work, when you are carrying these floats along the back, sometimes it can pull quite tightly when you're carrying the yarns. So you might need more stitches, more rows to make sure it fits that 16 by 16 square. But we have thought about that and added that to the pattern. And then with intarsia, because they're bigger blocks and we're working mainly in stocking stitch, generally with intarsia it is just your stocking stitch tension, so that should be okay. But again, these are all factored into the knitting patterns when we're knitting.
Yeah. So once people have signed up, what should they expect?
So this year we are starting with a welcome pack. So within this welcome pack, hopefully you'll have everything you need to get going on this knit along. So included in this welcome pack will be your materials list. So what 11 shades are needed for the blanket and what shades are needed for the cushion will all be there. We've also including this time a breakdown of our weekly materials list, because I find when I'm on the go I like to plan ahead. So if you're going on a holiday, you don't want to take all 11 balls of the blanket with you, because that might take up half your suitcase. So if you're only going for a week and you need to know what you need for that week, it might just be 2 shades that you need plus the size needle that you need to take. So all of that will be included in the welcome pack.
Yeah, and it's the first time we've given that information in advance, and I think that's really sort of listening to feedback from previous knit-alongs. People want to know what yarn they're going to need next so that they can plan. So yeah, we hope that will be really helpful.
I hope so. I'm always an organised person. I like to know what's happening ahead of time.
Yeah, me too.
Also included in this welcome pack will be our weekly schedule. So you'll see the dates for the weekly free pattern releases, as well as our weekly Zoom meetup times and dates. We then, in this welcome pack, have loads of great things to help you along the way. So we have the colour-in page that we just mentioned briefly. So fantastic if you're choosing your own colours. So you can really work out sort of what shades you want where, so you're not knitting the squares all the same colours in the same place, and you can really work out that balance and that placement. But I think it's also great to colour in just to relax.
It's just fun, isn't it?
Yeah,
Great
I really love
mindful
colouring
activity.
in books. So even if you are just going with the Melody or the Symphony colourways, just have fun. Just colour it in your spare time whilst you're waiting for a weekly release or something, because it's just a really fun, relaxing activity to do.
Yeah. And you've got some blank charts and note paper and things. So
yeah, so again, it's all about getting creative. So blank charts, if you want to maybe create your own square for it, add some more, go wild, have fun. And then the blank note page is just great. So if you do need to change your tension each time, change what needle size you need. It's just great to keep everything in one place. and have it all in the welcome pack, all that information there for you.
Yeah. The other thing that I think is quite useful in the information or the welcome pack is that we're including a little ruler that you can print out, so you can be constantly measuring your tension. And on the sides you can attach little bits of the yarn, so that, you know, sometimes once you've taken the ball band off, you can't remember, was that yarn A or was that yarn B? So you can mark on, you know, you can add little bits of yarn onto that, just so that you can keep that as a reference. And I think that's going to be a really useful tool as well for everybody.
Hopefully everything is just really handy to have all together to just, keep everything in sync and have like a nice relaxing knit along.
Yeah. And what about the weekly releases and Zoom meetups?
Yes, so excited for these. So we're going to have 8 weekly releases, with the first 4 weeks being the stranded colour work and 3 releases with intarsia. Then the last week is all the making up, adding a border if you're doing the blanket, sewing up the cushion, and an optional zip if you want. And depending on if you're doing the blanket or cushion, it will vary on what squares you're knitting each week. So for the cushion, you'll just be knitting 1 square per week. So that's really nice if it's just you're a beginner and just really want to sort of practice and learn, and you don't want a really big project. And then for week 3, we have this nice rib, which is great for knitters. If you're a knitter who knits quite quickly, we have quite a few of these to knit. So you can be knitting these along the other releases. If you knit quickly and finish them, want more knitting, you can be knitting release 3. And then for the blanket, you'll be having 3 squares a week to be knitting of the same release, plus the half squares of the ribs here. And again, we've put these in halfway through the knit along. So again, if you're a quick knitter, you can just be knitting these at the same time as these squares. But if you are a new knitter, these are just really nice to break up these other squares, because knitting a rib is just a really simple repeat sequence. And they're just nice to break up the bigger squares when you're knitting them.
Lovely. So we'll have weekly releases. You get the pattern every week. We're going to have a Zoom meetup every week, which is a wonderful way of seeing what everybody's doing and encouraging each other. It's a great opportunity to ask Chloe lots of questions as well. You might even do some demonstrations. You never know, if there are particular skills that you want to ask her about. But you're going to be doing some tutorials as well, that will be available along with the releases, so covering all the skills. So you'll know exactly what to do for each of the squares. And we'd also love you to join the Rowan Connect Make Along group on Facebook, because it's such a great place to enjoy the Rowan Connect community and see what people are making in this Make Along.
I can't wait to see everyone's progress. So happy knitting, and bye for now.